Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Board of Tyler ISD. The meeting was previously called to order. There is a presence of a quorum. The meeting has been duly called, and the notice of the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required. As we always do, we'll start off this meeting with a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Newsom, it is your turn.
May we bow. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, once again we come to you, thanking you for being the God that you are. God, we pray for this board as we sit here and we make decisions regarding the district, that we always make decisions that's beneficial to the students first and foremost and to the rest of the district. Dear Lord, we pray that you will continually watch over us, keep us safe as we go about our daily task of educating children. Dear Lord, we thank you for how good you've been to this district in particular. Pray that you will continually smile upon us, that we can continue to accomplish things that will be meaningful for the community. God, as we go forth, we pray that you will always be there for us and that we can continue to support one another in making this the best district within the state. In Christ's name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Newsom. We do have some action out of executive session to take care of. That's regarding the consideration and possible action to terminate the Chapter 21 term employment contract of Laura Colley. Do I have a motion on that item?
Mr. President, following the board proposing termination of Laura Colley's Chapter 21 term employment contract at our prior meeting on January 23rd, 2025, and after the evidence and recommendation presented at hearing this evening, I now move that the board terminate Ms. Colley's contract for good cause, including outrageous insubordination, abandonment of her position, and complete failure to perform the duties of her job.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. We have some special recognitions.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Crawford. How are y'all tonight?
Good evening. Good.
Oh, sorry. Good evening, board members and Dr. Crawford. How are y'all tonight? Thank you. Okay, tonight we're going to begin with our special recognitions by announcing our February District Students of the Month. This elementary student of the month is Izan Reyes, a fifth grade student at Griffin Elementary, and the secondary student of the month is Daniel Harvey, a junior at Tyler High School. And at this time, we're going to watch a brief video about these two outstanding students. That's not me.
Student success can be achieved in a variety of ways, and it's a journey that looks different for every learner. In Tyler ISD, we witness the remarkable transformation of young lives every day. Let's take this moment to applaud their successes, share their stories, and inspire one another. Together, let's celebrate the journey of student success in Tyler ISD. Join us as we meet our Elementary Student of the Month for February.
My name is Izan Reyes. I am the District Elementary Student of the Month.
Izan is an exceptional student who consistently goes above and beyond, both inside and outside the classroom. His willingness to assist others is one of his greatest attributes.
Whenever somebody is stuck in a question that our teacher assigned us, I come in and then ask them, hey, do you need help? And the person's saying, yeah, I do need help. And I try to explain the answer, to not give the full answer, but I try to help them explain it.
Beyond academics, Izan is a dedicated member of his school community. His commitment to making a positive impact extends to his peers as well.
He took initiative in going home, getting on iReady, and just taking the time to understand different concepts. And from there, he just decided that the school needed a beautification committee, and he went to Mr. Ladd and he spoke to him and he started everything. So he really embodies everything that Leader in Me 7 Habits has to offer.
Now let's recognize our district secondary student of the month.
My name is Daniel Harvey, and I'm the secondary student of the month for February.
As a junior at Tyler High School, Daniel exhibits exceptional qualities both academically and personally. Over the past couple of years, he's had a growing interest in business management and a love for cooking at the Career and Technology Center.
It helps me cope with certain skills I'm working with. It helps me relieve stress when I'm cooking in the kitchen. And I get to learn how to become a food handler certification. And I'm learning to become a manager right now.
Not only does Daniel excel in the classroom, but he balances school and work at 2 separate jobs. He has great plans for his future and knows exactly what he wants to do in order to obtain the successful life that he desires.
Daniel is a wonderful student. I have him for English 3. I teach him in English 3, and he's very self-motivated. He's always working hard. He's a great student, hard worker. I wish I had 30 of them in class. He's very ambitious. He has a lot of plans for himself after he graduates from high school, and I'm so very proud of him.
Let's honor these remarkable students as we acknowledge the outstanding achievements happening throughout our district. This recognition is brought to you by Christus Trinity Mother Francis Health System.
And at this time, we would like to welcome the board to the front of the room. And now we would like to ask Azen Reyes to come to the front of the room. And now we would like to welcome Daniel to the front of the room. And next, we have our Elementary District Teacher of the Month, Justin Malone at Jack Elementary School. And here are a few words from his principal. Mr. Malone, you can go ahead and come up if you'd like. We're going to read it first. Yeah, we're just going to make you stand right here. So everybody can hear this. Mr. Malone has enriched our campus culture with creativity and strong connections with students and families. As part of Jack's Sharpen the Saw enrichment clubs, he introduced his passion for gaming by creating a classroom arcade where students can compete on vintage video games. Wow. He also uses this as a positive behavior incentive, allowing students to earn tokens to play throughout the week. His innovative approach keeps students engaged while fostering meaningful connections. Okay, there you go. And next, we have Jessica Dean, if you would like to come to the front of the room. Mrs. Dean, according to her principal, Mrs. Dean excels in the classroom using all available resources, teamwork, and feedback to enhance student learning. Her strong rapport with students motivates them to succeed expectations. Her research-based behavior supports have improved student conduct and transitions. And I think I forgot to say that she is from Boshear Center for Exceptional Programs. As a mentor and team leader, she shares creativity with colleagues and helps implement new initiatives, including a work-based learning site with East Texas Food Bank. That's cool. Recently, she received a Tyler ISD Foundation grant with 2 other teachers. She is dedicated to every student. She goes above and beyond to support both her classroom and specialty learning spaces. There you go. And that concludes our recognitions. But we would like to say a special thank you to Trina Stewart. She filled in for photographer tonight.
Okay, and yes, after special recognition, some people do file out, so it's not a big deal if you don't want to stick around, but we'll get ready for some public participation. Just do your best to keep it to a dull roar, if you don't mind. We do have 6 public speakers tonight. I'll just remind everybody that we have it every night, and we do love hearing thoughts and concerns on all sorts of topics. Just remember that as board policy, we're obligated to listen, but we can't respond. So if we sit up here and we're not saying anything, it's state law that we sit and listen. So we're here to listen. And the first person speaking on the list is Remy Fernandez. And we give everybody 3 minutes. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Remy Fernandez, and I'm discussing the topic of Immigration Customs Enforcement of student degrees. First, I would like to thank the board members and the superintendent and the people coming to support. I would like to say a speech that I have prepared. Schools should be a place of hope. They should be filled with the sounds of laughter, of curiosity, of students daring to dream about their future. But for some, that dream has turned into a nightmare. For some, the sound they fear most is not the school bell, but the heavy footsteps of immigration officers walking through the halls. Imagine being a child sitting in a classroom, trying to focus on a math problem or a history lesson, but instead all you can think about is whether your mother will be home when you return. Imagine watching friends disappear, their desks suddenly empty, their name whispered in the halls but never spoken again, by teachers too afraid to explain why. Imagine feeling invisible, unwanted, afraid to exist in a place that promised your safety and education. This isn't just a story, this is real life for countless students across our country. Every time immigration enforcement enters a school, fear takes over. The child who once raised their hand with excitement now keeps their head down. The student who dreamed of being a doctor now wonders if they'll ever finish high school. The cafeteria, the playground, the library, places that once felt safe now feel like traps. Is this the kind of education we want to give? One filled with fear instead of knowledge, one where students' biggest worry isn't a test, but whether their family will still be together when they get home? No child should carry that weight. No school should be a place of fear. We have the choice. We can decide that schools are sacred places where every student, no matter where they come from, can learn without fear. We can fight for policies that protect our children, that allow them to dream again, to hope again, to simply be kids again. Because in the end, education is not just about the books and tests. It's about giving every child the chance to build a future. And no one, no law, no officer or policy should have the power to take that away. So my question is, what are the procedures in place in case immigration customs enforcement does come? And are you going to form us as a community? Because a community without knowledge is a community that is destined to fail. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have Dr. Nelida Medina Perez.
Can I move this?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm not as tall as Remy is, so. Good evening, board members. My name, oh crap, my time.
It's okay.
My name is Dr. Nelida Medina Perez. I'm a bilingual therapist, business owner, TISD alumni, but most importantly, a concerned parent. You might remember reading my email that I sent 2 weeks ago in regards to the issue of immigration. Since the email has been sent out, several districts across Texas have released written statements on how they are protecting their children in regards to immigration's custom enforcement. Locally, Marshall, along with Kilgore and Longview ISD, have informed their parents how they will protect their children in a written statement. However, TISD has yet to do so. I am here not seeking a change in policy or laws. I am simply requesting a written statement of policies that you already have in place. Are our children safe with you within the schools you represent? Will you allow ICE to enter your schools? What is the protocol for children who are not picked up by their parents? Will you call CPS? What family plan of preparedness do you recommend for our families? Will you accept a power of attorney or a notarized document? Are the school staff members educated on policies and procedures in this situation? How are you protecting our children that we as parents entrust with you daily? Having released information through your Spanish communication channel was a start, but it's not enough. Your response to my email was a great one. Why not make it available to all in a public setting? Asking for parents to reach out to the schools directly is a problem in itself and shows the lack of connection you have with our community. A population that already feels like they have to stay in the shadows will not dare speak out of fear of being singled out. There are several instances where a parent calls and there is not a Spanish-speaking person available to speak with them. Or worse, they don't trust the schools at all. In my practice, I see a large amount of Latino children. Since this new administration has taken office, I have had to process the fears with them. My elementary school children are fearful of going to school because they don't know if they will be home, because ICE might come and get them. They believe that because they have golden brown skin, they must be undocumented. I have seen an increase in cutting and hair plucking, both forms of self-harm, in my middle school girls. Girls who should be looking forward to choosing their schedules for the next year are now worried about their safety at school. My community is in crisis. Are your school counselors aware of that? Are they offering them support? My high school boys are thinking about dropping out of school because their fathers and mothers have gone to work out of fear. Their bills are piling up and they feel responsible for their families. They're leaving school early or arriving late because they are driving their parents to and from work. Are your counselors checking on them? My people are hurting and you have refused to put out a statement to us assuring us that all of our children are safe. Plyler versus Doe is a case that will always be part of TISD. I believe that as a district, you have worked very, very hard to show us that you are inclusive. With the growing anti-immigrant, anti-Latino sentiment, I feel that we are heading back down that road. Our community elected you to represent us. We are being marginalized instead. Please do not turn a blind eye to this
Time is
situation.
up. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, thank you.
Okay, Emily Pinal.
Good evening, school board members.
Good evening.
My name is Emily Pinal. I am a resident of Tyler, lifelong. I also wrote my statement, but I reside in District 5. I'm a byproduct of attending schools in District 3, so this side of Tyler. But this is my first year as a Tyler SD parent. So in addition to being an active PTA member, I'm a local organizer dedicated to advocating with and for our communities. Today, what I'm asking is urging you to release a public statement clarifying your stance and internal policies regarding ICE. Our community deserves transparency and reassurance, and the school board plays a vital role in fostering a sense of security for all students and their families. Many families in our district are living in fear. As a parent who is constantly engaged with other parents in and out of my children's school, I hear their concerns firsthand. I also work alongside other school districts in my nonprofit world, which is Longview ISD, one of our strongest partners, which has demonstrated integrity and commitment to the vast majority of their students. These districts have taken clear steps to communicate their policies and offering resources, ensuring that schools remain a safe space for all children. At the end of the day, what is so difficult about releasing a statement affirming that no individual is allowed inside the school without being listed in a student's file? Why is there so much hesitancy to release something we can hold y'all accountable to? If there is a valid reason, I urge you to enlighten our community of East Texas, Tyler area to be specific. Additionally, there has been no mass outreach or resources provided by TISD to families. No district flyers, no reassurance sent home. Families need to know that they can send their children to school without fear. It is one thing for individuals to place their trust on elected sheriffs who have openly collaborated with ICE for over a decade, but it is another to question trust we place in elected school officials. These officials who are responsible for our children's best interests. That is why I'm here today. I recognize the privilege of not living in constant fear, but I cannot say the same for the numerous parents and even school administrators I have spoken to. So I will not apologize for demanding transparency. I will continue to organize and hold leadership accountable, and I will work tirelessly alongside others to ensure that if you do not stand on the right side of history, you're not reelected, beginning with the races up for election this May. Our children deserve better.
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth Zavala.
Good evening, board. I stand before you today to speak about an issue that affects not just students and families, but the very foundation of our education system. We live in a time of shifting policies, increased enforcement actions, and heightened fear among immigrant communities. These changes directly impact the lives of families, students, and entire school districts. This is why we're asking this district to take a firm stand and respond with clarity, compassion, and commitment to protecting every student's right to learn and feel safe. Schools are more than just buildings where knowledge is shared. They are safe havens for children. When students step through the doors of a school, they should not have to worry about whether their parents will be home when they return. They should not fear that their immigration status or that of their family will prevent them from pursuing their education and dreams. Yet when immigration enforcement policies change, fear spreads like wildfire. Attendance drops, students become too anxious to focus. Families hesitate to send their children to school, worried about the possibility of encountering immigration officers. This is not an environment in which students can thrive. You have a responsibility to step in and reassure families that they are safe. Yes, under privacy laws such as FERPA, schools are not required to share student information with federal immigration authorities. Yet without clear policies and leadership, fear and misinformation creates barriers to education. This is why you districts must proactively communicate their policies and stand firm against any action that compromises students' rights. We learn in childhood that it is important to get an education because schools shape the future of this country. But how can we fulfill this mission if students are too afraid to show up? How can we expect children to dream big if they are constantly living in fear? So by responding to changes in immigration enforcement policies, you send a powerful message. So what you can do is affirm your commitment to all students and families, such as making a public statement that reinforces your role as a place of learning and not fear. And just like Longview, they are educating their families on their rights. So you need to establish clear policies and ensure that all of your staff understand how to handle situations involving ICE and immigration inquiries. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Matthew Bailey.
Good evening, board members, neighbors, and concerned residents. My name is Matthew Bailey, and I am here on behalf of a Tyler-born and based nonprofit organization, East Texas Monarchs. Our main goal is to support undocumented students in their academic journey across East Texas, beginning right here in Tyler. Currently, I'm a student at the University of Texas at Tyler. I believe that many of us now have heard the recent goings-on related to the undocumented peoples of these lands and their plight, stuck between the natural respect deserved by the shared humanity of us all and the cold arm of the law. Here in Tyler, we have a population that finds themselves stuck in this in-between. And we must remember that these are not criminals, not numbers on a page, not some tally on paper. These are sons, daughters, fathers, mothers, husbands, wives, grandparents, and most important to us here, young students. I remember when I was a young student, and I remember how mean children can be to one another. Blunt, foolish, bumping around as they go and find their way, as we all once did. All this is natural to our upbringing, though for the undocumented children of today, a greater force has befallen unto them. Fears of their parents being taken from them, snatched away to not be seen again, being ripped away from their friends and loved ones as they leave the schoolyard. This, as we can all gather, is a great paranoia, to be isolated, forced to become inert for fear of violence. This is not a healthy learning environment for a child. It is stunning, paralyzing, with the potentiality for academic and personal growth stifled under the boot of terror. I've heard rumors of children as young as 4 years old pondering into tempting acts and scenarios that no child should ever have. Thoughts of suiciding, the serrating of wrists and arms, first fears of abandonment as they hear tales of others' family members being taken from them with malicious eyes around every corner. These children from kindergarten to the senior class are in the most developmental stages of their lives. When I was in primary school, I remember being diagnosed with a mental condition not yet widely known, let alone understood by my fellow classmates. I was diagnosed with Tourette's syndrome, where I would have involuntary muscle twitches and vocalizations. For years, I would be side-eyed, teased, and bullied because of this. Over time, this had hardened my heart and made me increasingly sour to others, pessimistic and standoffish. We must ask ourselves now that if what I had gone through had made me who I am now, then what will these children become from the experiences they have today? Who will they be when they are my age? Will we be able to, in years' time, look back on the decisions that we make today and tell ourselves that we made the right decision, that we are indeed good people? I implore the board to make the right decision. On behalf of East Texas Monarchs, we demand the board to release a statement detailing their commitment and assurances thereof to the protection of undocumented students on these school grounds. We are here discussing not just the immediate impacts of the fear and the terror of ambiguity, but the years to come following what we do and say here today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, and the last speaker for this evening is Dimas Rodriguez.
Good evening, members of the board. I don't have a speech prepared, so I'm going to try to wing it, and I'll try to be as coherent as I can. I come to you tonight as a father and as a counselor in training. I'll speak first to what it's been like as a father. My daughter is at one of the middle schools here, and today she asked me about my citizenship status. Something in the air is making her ask questions about, Dad, is something going to happen to you? Now, I'm fortunate that there was a pathway to citizenship for me, and that I am a citizen, and I'm an American. But I remember the fear that I felt as a child when those papers weren't yet legal. I remember the fear I had of what's gonna happen to my parents. Now, as a counselor, I'm seeing an increase, like folks up here have mentioned, of anxiety, of depression. I met a student who saw me for the very first time, and when I took her back to the counseling room, was shaking. She didn't know who I was. She didn't know what questions I had for her, but I was there to support her. Now, when you're in a fear state, it's very difficult to learn. It's actually very difficult to be relaxed even in a playroom like I was trying to do, and it took a lot of work to get there. Towards the end of the session, we were able to turn it around, and she was starting to relax, feeling safe. But when she goes back to the classroom, I think the fear is coming back. And for myself, what I realized is I don't have guidance, neither as a father or as a counselor in training, working at TISD, and I need some guidance from you guys. Just let us know, what is the district planning in terms of what happens if a parent wants to know about their information, what's going to be revealed to ICE or to immigration enforcement? What coordination will there be between the district and ICE? Will TISD share student records with ICE? And will TISD allow ICE to enter the school district? We need some guidance, we need some information so that I know what we're working with, so that families know what we're working with. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody who came and spoke. Okay. We will go ahead and continue with our agenda, and the approval of minutes for the regular meeting, January 23rd, 2025, is on the agenda. Do I have a motion on that item?
I move we approve the minutes from January 23rd.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, the motion carries. Okay, we have a couple of continuous improvement student outcome results. Early literacy numeracy update, M-Class and iReady.
Dr. Cassandra Chapa and Dr. Johnny DeWard, two school supervisors for Tyler ISD, will provide the board an update on your M-Class and iReady results for this middle of the year, the MOI results of that. And Dr. Chapa, Dr. Ward, turn it over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Crawford. Good evening, board, President Washman. As Dr. Crawford said, we're here to talk to you about our middle of the year M-Class and iReady data. I know you guys have heard about M-Class a lot, but just want to review. M-Class is given to our students in kindergarten through second grade. It's in a one-on-one setting with our teachers and the students, and it's assessed 3 times per year. As we've been talking about on 3x3, although we have the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and the end of the year cumulative assessments, we are making sure that we're progress monitoring any student that's below grade level or below benchmark or well below benchmark every 3 weeks to make sure that our interventions are working. As you can see here, some data from just the cumulative data for kindergarten, first and second. We saw a huge increase with our kindergarten students. We had 29% of those students that came to us at benchmark, and now we're 56% of our kindergarten students are at benchmark. First grade, we saw an increase from 46 to 52, and in second grade, we saw a slight increase from 51 to 56. One thing I want to point out with second grade, that's at the transition. It used to be third grade where you were going from learning to read to reading to learn. Now we're pushing it back to second grade because, as you guys know, third grade students are definitely having to come in with some really strong skills for comprehension to be prepared for our new STAR test. I will show you in another slide, though, our second grade students, while we didn't see as large of an increase as we saw in kindergarten and first, that we are seeing some increase in those specific reading skills of fluency. You can see here the data from beginning of the year, middle of the year by demographics, comparison from 23-24 cohorts to 24-25. As you can see, we started out stronger in each demographic and we're continuing to trend upwards. I'll point out like our African American students went from 38 to 49%. Our 2 or more students went from 42 to 63%. So we did see an increase. Again, as I was saying, I wanted to point out the skills. I really want you to focus your attention on kindergarten. A lot of our kids come to us with very few skills, as you can see in letter naming. And I will point out too with M-Class, this is a time test. So some of the kids may have the skills, but if they can't complete it within that time limit, it doesn't count for them. But as you can see here, decoding, we only had 11% of our kindergarten students that came to us at the beginning of the year on benchmark, but we're now at 54% of those students on benchmark. Word reading, 13% to 54%, and letter sounds, 22% to 54%. So that's huge increases. As you guys know, I think we were in our third or fourth year with Reading Horizons, which is our phonics program that our teachers are using with Fidelity, as well as our Wonders program that we've been in the last 4 to 5 years as well, which is working on comprehension. You can see first grade, they also had some increases, but one thing I wanted to point out in second grade, as I was talking about earlier, reading accuracy went from 49% to 63% of our second graders are now at benchmark. And then reading fluency, which is very important, went from 47 to 52%. So we did see some increases. We will continue to progress monitor those students that are below and well below to ensure that our interventions are working and that our Reading Horizons program is working so that we can continue to see increases by the end of the year. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Chapa for iReady.
Yes, so iReady, we are continuing our journey with Curriculum Associates and iReady. This is year 2 for us to fully use it as a diagnostic in math and reading for kinder through 8th grade, as well as use it as one of our tools to project proficiency. So we know that there is not one tool that we can use solely to help us be spot on with our projections, or a resource that is going to support all the intervention that our students need. But we are investing in time and finding out all the capabilities of this program because we want to be able to stay iReady so we don't have to get iReady. So as a refresher for those that are following our updates, and for the board, again, it assesses math and reading 3 times a year. It's used in a computer group setting, so through a class period, students are online individually with their computers. And again, it does come with an intervention path and personalized learning. Teachers can also access a teacher resource kit through iReady to provide students. Now, I do want to clearly set the stage for the data that we're about to show you. It's a little bit different than what we might see at beginning of year or what we've seen in the past. When students take the diagnostic in the beginning of the year, they are provided their level score, but they're also provided 2 other indicators. One is a growth indicator for what would be an adequate year's growth based on where they are. The second indicator is called a stretch growth indicator. Through the iReady research, or what we already know about students, is when they end the year with us, they go to summer, and then they have summer slide. So it's very typical that we have students at the beginning of year on their diagnostic that may seem to be behind where they ended the previous year. So that stretch growth indicator is very interesting to us because through the iReady research, if students are able to get to that stretch growth indicator for 2 consecutive years, it increases their likelihood to maintain being on grade level or exceeding grade level in positions where they may have started off behind. So that stretch growth indicator is really important for us to work with our campuses and make sure that as they're progress monitoring MyPath, using small group intervention, that we're pushing students to that level to recover that. So in this first slide, we are seeing our cohort data, meaning students that took iReady beginning of the year and middle of the year with us. And this is the percent of students that have already made 1 full year's worth of progress. So it's pretty incredible to see that half of our 8th graders are already at that first year, very close to that stretch growth goal. iReady is not designed specifically for Tyler ISD curriculum. It's not specifically designed even just for the state of Texas curriculum. So what this tells us is we may not have given Tier 1 instruction on some of these grade level skills yet, but it's a very promising way of looking at student growth towards that end of year target. Similarly, this is by demographic. Again, celebrations is that we've got 1/3 of all of our students getting to that year's growth already at middle of the year. There are some questions about the access to MyPath that students have during the day and outside of the school day. Definitely a challenge is we can't control how students are interacting with their personalized learning plan outside of our school day. And then making sure that we're maximizing the opportunities with students so that they're getting that full instruction through their MyPath. This second part of data is something that you've seen before. It's our comparison data with other districts that are like us that utilize iReady, as well as our state comparison data. Here for reading, what we see is a good number of our grade levels are in line or outpacing what we see with the state for middle of the year. Again, some celebrations would be in 5th grade and in 2nd grade. We're seeing that our instruction is on pace, and if we were to, potentially take a STAR test today, we'd be very akin to what we'd see across the state. And for math, we see some really amazing gains for our numeracy in those early grade levels. And even in 8th grade, we're seeing us outpace the state. We always know that middle school is a tricky spot for us in terms of comparing it with iReady and trying to make those projections. But we're seeing very clearly that we're trekking in the right direction. iReady is currently also learning more about STAR 2.0, and we're looking forward to some of their studies that they're doing and making sure that what they're putting out there for us as the consumer is aligning with what we'll see on STAR and in terms of accountability. All right, well, that's what we have for you this evening. Any questions?
Thank you. Does anybody on the board have any comments or questions?
I have a question. On each sheet, I see that you always have only students tested for all administrations are included. So approximately how many students do we have that are not included?
I would say we know that students that are on Snapshot, I think the last we heard from this part last year to this part this year, our enrollment is up. So there are, after Snapshot, we have seen an increase of students. I don't have that exact number for you, but that's something we can get.
It's
at 2%.
I was going to say,
yeah.
I saw it again.
So do they get any kind of testing? Do we know where they stand?
They still take the middle of year diagnostic, and we still use that data to individualize.
But we don't have any information on that data.
In
It's
terms
not
of
2% that
correct.
are not inclusive in this. Okay. Do we have this information by school versus just total?
Yes, we have it.
Could we get that information by school?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's it.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just a question regarding, I think I may have heard you wrong, but you said the Tier 1 instruction has not been given yet? Did I hear that right?
Well, we're in February.
Right.
So we still have a scope and sequence for the rest of the year. So in terms of where students will be at end of year, we still have curriculum left to teach to make sure that we've covered every standard.
So on the timeline, when will that instruction begin? You
Well,
said Tier
I think he's
1
just
instruction
asking, like,
not
define
yet.
tier one.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah,
So
I
we
think
have-
that may be the,
Yeah, so outside of the My Path, in terms of outside the computer, Tier 1 instruction, I was referring to teacher-led or teacher-directed.
Okay.
So the daily lesson scope and sequence of our curriculum, not what's included in the iReady My Path.
Because the My Path is based on the students, their levels. So if I'm a kid that's above grade level, I may be exposed to some things in my Path that the teacher may not have directly taught in the class yet. So that's what-
okay. Thanks, appreciate that. No, go ahead. In general, looking at slide number 2 or 3, I think it is, where you have the breakdown of the cohorts of demographics, looking at African American, Hispanic, and white. You know, I've been concerned ever since I've been here about closing the gap. We don't get a report directly related to that. Only way we actually see it is when if I go back individually and check that and see if we're actually closing the gap between the Hispanics and the African American and the whites. I would like to see something more official in that regard so that we can actually report to our constituents that we're actually achieving that goal of closing the gap. And it's been hard for me to determine that each time. And I was wondering if that's a possibility of actually keying in on that particular goal of closing the gap between the African American, Hispanics, and the whites within the district. If there's some way we can accumulate that data that's easy to see and understand.
We received that report at the end of the year, the STAR. They've actually have a domain that's closing the gaps.
Right.
So we do receive that report for the.
Well, okay, well, let me say
the
this because somehow I missed it somehow.
The summative assessment.
Do we have that data?
From last year?
Right, from last
Closing
year and the
gaps?
previous years. Ever since I've been on the board, I haven't been able to really pinpoint that as a particular goal. We talk about it, but I hadn't been able to see.
That's been a goal. That's been a
I hadn't
goal.
seen a diagram like
close
this
the
that
gaps?
indicate the gaps being closed. So if that is possible, then I guess we could go back and pull that data from the past 5 years that I've been here. And we could actually put it on one chart in that case for each year, how successful we've been at closing that gap. And that's easy then, if we already have the data. Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah. Just real quickly on the personalized learning plan, that's what they get. If they go in, they take their beginning of year test or middle of year, and then it comes back with a plan. For them, is the teacher able to go in and adjust that plan?
Yes.
Yeah, because highly doubtful that middle school boys are doing their absolute best on the iReady. Would you agree?
Yes, teachers have the option to also assign specific lessons.
Okay.
And also towards specific skills. So teachers have access to personalized lessons that may occur in a standard that is a grade below or a grade above.
And last year, if I remember correctly, iReady was a little bit off, I think more on the math side than the reading in its estimating of how we would do. Is that right? A little bit worse on math. How are y'all feeling about this year? Y'all think it's closer or aligned to how we'll perform on the STAR?
Yeah, they are currently conducting a study on how their alignment is improving, but that's also why we don't use this as our only projection. Campuses also have their accountability tracker with our unit assessments, in which we're able to kind of also judge whether or not the test, that unit test would align with standards on STAR. So we're also using accountability trackers to kind of pinpoint proficiency.
What's that data showing?
Again, campus by campus, it's going to be different, but most of our campuses are on track to reach their goal or improve where they are currently.
I guess in general, is it aligning with iReady, would you say? Is it close when they're
It's
doing that?
it's pretty close.
Last year,
Mhm.
yes.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Appreciate it. Okay. Advanced placement dual credit and CTE certifications update is next.
Dr. Kristen Walls, Executive Director, College and Career, is going to provide the report to the board per your board monitoring calendar. Dr. Walls?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Board trustees, Dr. Crawford, great to see you again. I think it was pretty recent. So tonight, I wanted to just kind of refresh, we did a little refresh on our goals and percent of Tyler ISD graduates who are going to be college, career, military ready. I'll use CCMR throughout this, from 77.4% to 86.7% by June 2029. So a little bit more reflective of where, when they change the accountability as we're moving forward. We've talked about this many times. I think the really only difference that we've seen now for our seniors this year is the career readiness component. In the past, they had to earn an industry-based certification. Then the next year it was an alignment with one, and now they have to have a CTE concentrator, which means that they have 2 or more aligned courses plus an industry-based certification approved by TEA. But the others, from the 3+ on the AP exam, the dual credit, those have remained the same. So for goal 3, and remember, each year this is lag data. So on our reports that we had, it was showing 2023, so the graduates of that time. So we looked at 2022. At that time, we had 71.1% were CCMR, and then we did increase to 77%. So we had a gain from that point. I can tell you this, that from last year's graduates, and then currently as we're looking today, we are definitely moving upwards into the 80s. So last year it was 79%, I believe. And then today, when I looked at the projections, of course, they're projections, but it was about 84%. So we're definitely making strides to moving that. And of course, what's the goal of school, of course, is to make sure that our students, and they leave, is to be college, career, or military ready. So getting closer and closer to getting more of our students there. For advanced placement exams, this was from last year, and so over the 2024, so we had 546 students who had taken 1,009 exams, and then those who scored with 3 or more, with a 3 or 4 or 5, was 464 students. We can only go by projections because those exams don't happen until May, but we have approximately 635. We know that 1,352 were paid for, and then based on 5-year data, we're hoping to see that this aligns like it has been to have at least 546 with 3 or higher. For a dual credit, we've seen the numbers kind of increase, and there was just a little bit of a dip in the number of courses that were taken. I'm sorry, the number of students who were taking courses, but the students who are taking this year took more courses, even though it was less than the previous number of students from the past year. And our industry-based certifications for the class of 2024, the number of IBC earned was 668. For class of 2025, and this was of January 31st, so the total number is 677. Today, when I looked at it, it was 725. So we keep moving up. And right now, we're in testing season. So it starts about the end of December, and we test mostly until April. Before their senior year finishes out. All right, do you have any questions?
Very good. Anybody have any comments or questions? Pretty straightforward. We appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Let me ask this question. Just so we know that over the last couple of years, we kind of recalibrated our goals because we were well ahead of it when we first started this back when the new A through F, when Mr. Brown was the executive director of CCMR,
Right.
College of Career. We were really doing well. We're still doing well, but we did stretch those goals out because we've got to, because the commissioner changed on CCMR, didn't give us a pause or anything on what an A looked like in CCMR or a B.
An A.
An A.
So I think
Which you needed, what was the percentage to qualify for that?
previously, when we first set the goals, it was 70%.
Right.
I think it was 68
Right.
for an A, but then it jumped up to 88.
Yeah, to 88.
So-
we're on the
Yeah.
cusp of trying to grab that in
Get back there.
in that domain right there. We're going to be really close. Possibly.
Very soon, yeah.
Yeah, soon. Okay, good.
I mean, unfortunately, it's always behind whenever we
Mm-hmm.
have, year lag, but that doesn't stop us from our goals. So we're going to head to that 88 as much as we can.
We're making progress, though, to being a firm B in that domain, though, aren't we? Yeah.
Definitely.
And a lot of that's on, not just on the IBCs, not just on the AP, not just on the dual credit, but a lot of the alignment within the path, or not the pathways, but my gosh, what am I looking? Sequence of
Oh,
courses.
the program of study courses, yes.
Yes, that's important because there's requirements over the next 5 to 10 years that has to remain a big deal for the school system. And we keep talking about parental choice, right? And so calling and switching your major, for lack of a better term, in year 3 is pretty impossible for us to figure that out for a student. If they're 3 years in, switching their last year is going to be difficult for us.
Well, one of the things, I think it was back in 2022, knowing that this was happening.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of giving us an idea of where we were heading. When I was the director of CTE, that was one of the biggest challenges that it is take a look and align all of those programs of study. So if a student starts off their freshman year, the majority of our students can become a completer by junior year, which also gives them more flexibility their senior year.
Yeah.
Some of them may decide, okay, I've completed, I've received my IBC, but now I want to take more dual credit courses, my senior year or AP courses. They have that flexibility. Or if they decide they want to continue on, that's where we really focus in on the work-based learning with practicum. They get to go to the hospital more or doing some of the internships that we've developed. So,
Well, the reason I bring that up, and I always use my own children when they go through the system and go through the experience of what we have. My middle kid, 4 years of architecture, and doesn't want anything to do with that in his life ever again. My point on that is it's great to think about the economy and having a well-paying job when you get out. But we also have to remember that when these kids are choosing that, they're 13 years old in 8th grade usually. What did y'all want to be when you were 13? I either wanted to be Indiana Jones or I wanted to be the starting second baseman for the New York Yankees. So I'm just saying that I'm really championing our staff for putting these things together to keep them, to keep the main thing so that we can score in the accountability system. That's kind of how we're having to look at that. So I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion there that the data that we're grabbing on this, that we're actually achieving, it's pretty substantial when you start talking about dealing with the adolescent mind and parents that really want to take care of their kids. I'm the same way. Not every parent says, no, you're going to stick with it until you complete it. And I also understand that it's good for the district. It's good for the campus. It's good for the school. But our teachers are really the glue that holds them together, and they're sticking with it, and they're performing. So just a little bit of a commentary on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the information.
thank you.
Moving on to our consent agenda, we'll pull items B, and we'll also pull item E for individual motions. But I'll go ahead and entertain a motion through items A through F with the exception of B and E.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay, item B, gifts and donations.
On page 15 of your packet, we've got some outstanding community organizations and institutions that are so benevolent towards our school system and our students and our teachers. We love celebrating them. As y'all know, the CDC local says that the board actually approves all donations above $5,000, and we've got some to bring to you tonight. One being First Baptist Church Tyler, Reverend Pike Wisner, the pastor over there, good guy. But they actually provided $5,000 to the Wayne D. Boshier Center for Exceptional Programs. We recognize one of their teachers tonight. $15,000, the R.W. Fair Foundation for the Tyler ISD Athletic Department Youth Basketball League. What year are we on that? 5 or 6, I think. And what a neat thing we have for our community for 8 weekends, pretty much right before Christmas all the way to now. I think their tournaments this next coming weekend. We give our kids an opportunity to not only play basketball, but to be mentored by adults in the community that are giving back as well. But we couldn't do it without the R.W. Fair Foundation as well. Thank them for that. CTCU Cooperative Teacher Credit Union, $38,550 for Tyler ISD Communications for district events. Think about convocation, think about Teacher of the Year, Educator of the Year banquet. We couldn't do it without Cooperative Teacher Credit Union. Certainly we want to protect our taxpayers' dollars. These enterprising funds help us do some of the things that we do to be able to celebrate our students and our teachers outside of what the taxpayers provide us, which those are what's targeting the classroom. So there's your list of donations, and it does take board action to approve those.
Well, great. If anybody has any comments, go for it. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion on all of these awesome donations.
I move that we
approve with great gratitude to all 3 of these groups. Very, very generous.
I second.
Thank you, and I have a second. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries with a grateful heart. A pretty incredible community we live in. Okay, item E was consider approval of purchases of wireless network equipment. And I'll entertain a motion on that item with the knowledge that we'll have to come back and maybe adjust it possibly.
Yeah, the vendor that we actually approved on, that's up for approval on that, did get us the terms and conditions tweaked like they need to, and providing the superintendent authority to be able to go ahead and execute that, along with the board president signing that, with something we'd be asking for right now.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on that item with those conditions.
Mr. President, I move that we approve item E, contingent or subject to the superintendent reviewing the terms and conditions along with the president of the board.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it, the motion carries. Thank you for that. Okay, we have a consider approval of a waiver for low attendance for January 9th and 10th, 2025.
Y'all remember those days? January 9th and January 10th, 38-degree weather, 37-degree weather, and rain. Y'all remember those days?
Oh, yeah, we were at school.
Tyler ISD came to school. No, not because we're sticking our chest out to do that, but the data doesn't lie, right? The tires on the road don't lie. And so that's what the waiver is for. There's been a lot of discussion about that. And guess what we have here in a couple, 3 more days? Cold weather and then a chance of maybe moisture somewhere. So anyways, this is for the 9th and the 10th when we actually had school. We had some low attendance days those days. The board needs to take action for us to apply for that waiver to the state for those low attendance days.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on that item.
I move we approve that item.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. The motion carries. Okay, we have an 89th legislative update.
Yeah, every 2 years, the state legislature meets in Austin, Texas. Elected officials go down there and make policy for the state of Texas. A lot of that's in education policy.
I didn't realize there was anything going on this year in education down there in Austin.
Really? Legislative sessions in the 89th is what they're calling this one. Mr. Washman. Real quick, I don't want to spend too much time, but we're certainly going to keep this on our agenda until they actually do sine die at the back end of, what was that, June, I guess? And certainly, we want to give the public opportunity to kind of know what's on our hearts, on our mind. Senate's put out there an initial appropriations bill. I've got some things started here. $3 billion biennium for new property tax relief, increasing the homestead exemption. They did a really great work, and certainly it's something that was needed to be done. All y'all are property owners here, sometimes many times over. And that's certainly something that's always on our mind. But your homestead is pretty much the home that you live in. It's not your rental properties. It's not your commercial properties, et cetera. They're trying to do some work down there. $3 billion so far on the Senate side was what they're thinking on the contingency items. $3.5 billion on the House side. Just kind of going through a few things that may be of interest to y'all. On the initial appropriation bill, that's on the Senate side, and then on the House side, I told you about the $3.5 billion. The public education, $4.85 billion biennium. It's just a little bit over 2.4 per year in that biennium for public education funding. On the House side, it's about the same thing on the Senate side as well. And then there is $1 billion on the Senate side, and on the House side, they call them education savings accounts. It's easy to call them a voucher as well. Property tax relief is something that's kind of throughout both the House and the Senate, is something that's really interesting for them. School safety is something that they really are concerned about as well, that probably will get a good look, along with special education allotments. House has put $450 million out there, in the Senate, $450 million out there for the opportunity for TRS active care premium increases. They really are, and of course we are a TRS active care district now. They're projecting, because healthcare is so expensive, I don't care if you're self-funded or you're on the state plan, it's going up exponentially. And so they are asking, TRS Active Care is asking the House and the Senate to throw something their way to maybe knock that down for teachers as we go forward. Because if there is any type of salary increase, you don't want that eaten up by premiums going up. And that's something that's really concerns us. The thing that we did as a school district, I think that was a pretty good move for us. As far as the stewardship of tax dollars, is to get out of the self-funded business for so long. And I really do think you think about people like Elmer and Betsy Ellis. They really did give us the hometown discount when we were with ETMC. Christus did a good job of really working with us, but it got so expensive on on a lot of that self-funded plan, and it just got away from us. To where we were spending a lot of money out of fund balance to be able to cover some of those extreme cases that were above and beyond what the normal plan asked for. You have a rise of these freestanding ERs. That is another thing that really does concern us. At least TRS Active Care feels like they've got that taken care of as well. Stop loss insurance is what I was thinking of, Casey. Over there, stop loss. Good job, Rojo. You were over there whispering, weren't you? But that was really starting to hit us. And stop loss is certainly for those instances where you have somebody with a really, really tragic medical issue that cost the district a lot of money past what our health care agreements say. And that was really starting to hit us. So going over to TRS is something I spent a little bit too much time on that, but that is something that's really weighing on our hearts as well. The governor's emergency items, these are things that they should be working on and hopefully have some resolution within the first 60 days of the session. Property tax relief, water infrastructure, teacher pay, star that one. Expanding career education opportunities, that's pretty big for us, right? School choice, we already talked about that they've got the vouchers, the education savings accounts that's out there, along with bail reform in Texas. Some cyber networking and security as well. On the Senate's priority items, obviously the Senate Bill 1 is the appropriations bill. That's pretty important to all Texans, right? Senate Bill 2, school choice, and you saw the vote, a week ago, that's already been passed through the Senate, and they're waiting what the House is going to do on that. Senate Bill 3 is really not an education issue, but banning THC in Texas. Y'all know how we feel about vapes, and that I do think it does impact our school systems, especially in regard to student code of conduct and the ever prevalent and easily accessible vapes that we have, the vaping issue that we have here. And if such a morally conservative state and morally conservative county and city that we live in, it amazes me with the availability of vapes, and it does get into your youth. It gets to your youth quite easily. You'll go all the way down to Senate Bill 10, 10 Commandments in Schools. Senate Bill 11, freedom to pray in school, not to pay in school, but freedom to pray in school. Senate Bill 12, Parental Bill of Rights in Public Ed. Senate Bill 13, inappropriate books in public schools. You know, that's one thing I've asked our local reps and legislators to think about, that if we're truly concerned about some of the moral decay in society and you know, is it happening inside of schools? You know, put some policy in place if it's important to us to eradicate some of those things, to fix some of those things, if it's important to them. If not, I think it's an issue that they just want to kind of keep talking about. And because, you know, for some reason, we've been identified as the boogeyman in a lot of ways, unfortunately, because there's a lot of good people that are working inside of our public schools that do have that moral compass and want to convey that to our kids. But anytime one, you know, fouls up on that or gets out of line, we want to broad brush paint every public school system across this state, every school superintendent, every school that we have. So certainly I'm really glad to see that there are some bills that are going to be out there to talk about some of these things that are also concerning to us and things that we've actually taken care of from this dais in this school system and done adequately so, I think. House Bill 1519 on the House side, you're talking about required bond elections to possibly be in a November uniform election date. So usually we've done some bonds in November, but we've actually done them in May. But they're talking about possibly throwing that all into a November election date. Thankfully, that doesn't affect us right now. We're at a pretty good place right now as far as our facilities go. Over the last 20 years, our community has really supported us in being able to get our new facilities taken care of in a very fiscally conservative way. Governance, regulate the school start date. House Bill 604, Mr. Patterson. Some of y'all on the dais might want the school start date regulated and might be in favor of such. I'm not looking at anyone specifically. Senate Bill 239, Middleton, would limit lobbying by local school governments. There's some triggers in there for some of your state organizations like Texas Association of School Boards, Texas Association of School Administrators. Whether to get there or not is to be determined. But there's also some bills out there about superintendents even contacting legislators. Last time I looked, I'm also a citizen of this state and a taxpayer of this state. So limiting people to contact your locally elected representatives, that's just a pretty extreme thing. I don't know if it'll get any legs or not, but that's just kind of the atmosphere that's out there. Property tax, House Bill 217, require a 60% margin in TREs, tax ratification elections. You know, there's a little bit of wondering out there about that 60% of the supermajority. There's not a whole lot of things in this world that are requiring a supermajority, but it's certainly something that's going to be bantered about down there over the next 3 or 4 months. 236, I don't know if it's got legs on the House side, would move funding calculations from ADA to actual enrollment. Just a little personal commentary here. I think the reason they've got the ADA in there instead of the actual enrollment is because they've got an algorithm or formulas down there about fully funding schools and then what to expect out of the attendance. And I don't know if you could get 100% funding and feel good about that from the state coffers if we didn't have that 92 to 95% attendance. If you went 100% attendance, that's a lot of money that gets spent into public education. So I don't know if that's got legs or not. Senate Bill 569, talking about FSP funding for full-time virtual programs. We kind of talked about that during the panic that we had during COVID. But that might be the way of the future as far as being able to do that. Also, Senate Bill 568, talking about actually the funding on special education. We know that we've been spending a lot of money out of our M&O to prop up special education because so many kids have entered the system since the ghost cap was eliminated a few years ago. That's something that's pretty interesting. We've already talked about, again, there was another slide on vouchers. And then the last thing we'll talk about is something we need to be concerned about is what do we do? How do we go forward on this? You begin with current law until things get passed. Casey knows that. And then you have contingency planning. You're focused on your scenarios for level of change at specific mechanisms and what they do change. I think at the end of the day, you're going to talk about teacher compensation increases. I think one thing we've got to be concerned about is the largest school system in East Texas is being lumped in with all the other urban settings in the state, because the urban settings and their cost of education, the way those formulas are set up, your Dallases, your DFWs, your Austins, your San Antonios, your Houstons, your larger school systems, their formulas are different than ours. We are kind of lumped in there because we have 18,000 plus students. Well, the last round of the 88th legislature, they kind of started out at 20,000, saying that $10,000 raise could potentially be provided for a rural school teacher. And there is kind of a rural school teacher's trigger on the compensation boost this time. Well, that last one got knocked down well below the 20,000. It actually knocked us out of that. That is something that concerns me, but it would encompass the rest of East Texas. Let's say they capped it at 10,000. Well, that would get everybody else but Tyler ISD in Region 7 and Region 8, including Longview, who shares a lot of the same types of students that we have, a lot of the same type of economic advantages that we have in their city. So, where is that cap going to be if they do decide to say that we're going to provide rural educators this type of raise versus urban educators this type of raise? So that's teacher compensation. School safety allotment, an increase in that is going to be really good for Tyler ISD because we went all in 2019. We put a police officer at every campus. We did, they didn't really fund it. It was an unfunded mandate, but we went ahead and said, we're going to prioritize school safety on our campuses to where we're going to provide at least one police officer, sometimes multiple police officers at every one of our campuses. And then, of course, special education, which is what I just talked about as well. What you did not hear, and what we're not hearing much of, is an increase in the basic allotment. And the increase in the basic allotment allows us to kind of fend off some of the inflationary issues that exist out there. Some of those fixed costs, fuel, electricity, water, supplies. Everything has gone up, whether it be the cost of a Chromebook or maybe a digital board that we use for instruction, et cetera, et cetera. We're really having to figure out a way to be more efficient with what we're doing. And we're going through that process right now. And at the same time, if teacher compensation is not improved, we've got to figure out a way to win and continue to keep our streak up. And we're fully committed to do so. That's your legislative update. I'm sure y'all don't want to have any commentary about it, but in future meetings, y'all certainly may have some questions. We'll keep this item on there.
Okay. Any comments or questions before we move on? Thank you for putting that on there. It's a big year, and we want to stay apprised of everything going on down in Austin. So, future business, we have March 6th workshop, spring break coming up, March 17th through 21, and March 31st we have a regular meeting. So, looking forward to all that, and I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn. Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.